You've heard the story a million times, right? American manufacturing is in decline. It's a shadow of its former self. But what does that actually mean? What really happened to all those factories and all those jobs? We're going to get past the headlines and dig into what the data really tells us. And right away, the numbers are just staggering. From 1999 to 2009, just one decade, the United States lost 5.8 million manufacturing jobs. Seriously, think about that. This wasn't some slow, gentle fade. It was a massive, unprecedented shock to the whole system. So that leads to the big question. Why? What on earth happened that was so powerful it could just erase millions of jobs and completely reshape entire communities? Well, the answer is a lot more complicated and honestly, a lot more interesting than you might think.
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we have to stop thinking about manufacturing as just one single thing, because it's not. It's not this one big blob. Researchers have actually broken it down into different types, and that's what really helps explain where the losses came from.
I mean, just think about it for a second. A massive steel mill operates in a completely different universe than a company that's designing the latest smartphone chips. And recognizing those deep down differences, that is the absolute key to unlocking what's been going on for the last 20 years. And this slide right here shows that shift perfectly. So, researchers have kind of sorted manufacturing into four main types. You've got your scale-based stuff like steel, and on the other end, flexible things like custom machinery. But the real drama is right in the middle. Look at the learning curves industries. We're talking super complex processes like actually making computer chips. The US global share in that area plummeted by a whopping 11 points. Now look at R&D-based industries, the ones that focus on design and innovation. Our share there, it actually grew by 4 points. So you see, this isn't just about losing jobs. It's a fundamental pivot. We moved away from the hands-on making of things and shifted toward the designing of them. And that requires a totally different workforce, more engineers and designers, and way fewer people on an assembly line. Okay, so if we know what changed, the next logical question is why it changed. And that brings us to the first of two really big competing theories: the rise of the robots, automation. This quote really just nails the whole automation argument. The idea is that American manufacturing isn't dead at all. It's just gotten incredibly, almost unbelievably efficient. People who back this view will tell you that our output is as high as it's ever been. We just don't need as many people to make all that stuff anymore. And the classic comparison you always hear is agriculture. 100 years ago, a huge chunk of the country worked on farms. But today, thanks to technology, a tiny, tiny fraction of our workforce can feed everybody. The automation argument says the exact same thing happened, just inside our factories instead of out in the fields. But wait, that's not the only story out there. Not by a long shot. There's another powerful explanation, one that looks outside our borders and points a finger at the rise of a massive new global competitor. Yeah, back in 2013, a huge study with this exact title came out, and it sent shockwaves through the world of economics. The China syndrome theory it laid out was pretty simple but incredibly powerful. It argued that the rapid collapse of US factory jobs wasn't just some accident. It was a direct result of a massive tidal wave of import competition, especially after China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. So you've got these two very different stories. On one side, the automation story says we're basically victims of our own success. We got so good at making things, we automated ourselves out of a job. On the other side, the globalization story says American workers were thrown into the ring with an unprecedented wave of competition that led to factory after factory shutting down. The truth? It's probably some messy combination of both, but experts are still fiercely debating which one was the bigger factor. So when you're facing these enormous forces, it's natural to ask, what can we do about it? This whole debate over whether the government should step in to protect or boost American industry, it's literally as old as the country itself. But the real question is, does it actually work? This timeline shows something really important. Our whole reason for using tariffs has changed dramatically over the years. For the first 70 years or so, it was pretty simple. They were just how we funded the government. Then we went into this long period of protectionism. And for the last 90 years, the main goal has shifted to lowering trade barriers. So yeah, there's no single, consistent American way of doing things when it comes to trade. So what happens when the government does try to pick winners and losers? Well, the track record is, let's just say it's spotty, at best. We've protected the steel industry for decades, and it still can't really compete globally on its own.
Efforts to build up a solar panel industry mostly fizzled out, and even in a relative success story like semiconductors, the early government help was great, but later attempts at protectionism didn't work so well. It just goes to show you that trying to fine-tune the economy like this is incredibly hard to get right.
All right, let's just do a quick recap of what we've gone over. First, that job loss after the year 2000 was a massive, massive economic shock. Second, it wasn't just a simple decline across the board. It was a big structural shift toward R&D and design. Third, there's no single bad guy here. Both automation and globalization played huge and still hotly debated roles. And finally, history tells us that trying to fix the problem with government policy is no silver bullet. And all of that leaves us with a really critical question as we look to the future. When we think about policy today, what should the real goal even be? Is it about trying to turn back the clock and bring back those specific factory jobs we've lost? Or is it about focusing our energy and our resources on making sure we're leading the next wave of innovation, whatever that might look like? The answer to that question is what's going to define the next chapter of American industry.